Hello, everyone. Thank you very much for this warm welcoming. We are very pleased to be here today to talk about upcycling, which is a large subject. It's all about how to create sustainable food for the future. And one of the ways is actually not that complicated, is it? They're going to scream when I say that. Anyway, upcycling, what is it? As an introduction, it's not just making new with old, even if it is the main thing. It has to be sustainable. So when we think about upcycling, we need to have, first of all, the right definition. And I have it written under my nose. So I will read it to you. The official definition is upcycled foods use ingredients that otherwise would not have gone to the human consumption, but also are produced using verifiable supply chains. We are going to talk about supply chains that they use, and have a positive impact on the environment. So it is circular, but thoughtful circular business. It is, of course, one of the best ways in which the future can help limit the catastrophe of food waste. So before talking with all those three startups, I just wanted to talk a little bit about what the catastrophe of food waste is today, because just in Europe we now have almost 60 million tons of food waste generated annually, which is just impossible to carry on. We need all together to make this change. And globally, we have to keep in mind that 1/3 of the food that is produced for humans is just being thrown away. So this is not possible anymore. So because 20% of all that food waste is due to manufacturers, we're here today not to talk only about the bad aspects, but also to turn to solutions that do exist. And all those three startups here are very good examples to follow. So let's turn to them. Louise, hello.
Hi.
Can we hear Louise?
Do you hear me? Yeah. Okay.
I'll just give you my micro. So Louise is the co-founder of Handi Gaspi, which is a startup committed to handicap, but also to food waste. So Louise, can you please tell us what you do and how is upcycling involved?
Yeah, I think it's working. So hello, Handi Gaspi. I'm the co-founder of the Handi Gaspi Cookery. It's a manufacturing. Handi Gaspi is a gameplay in French, like Handi means handicap, and anti-gaspi means zero waste. So what we do is that we take unsold bread, as you can see in my beautiful hair, and we crush it into a powder and add it to the dough, and all the fabrication is made by disabled people. So they do the whole fabrication from the dough through putting the biscuits into the packaging, and then they do the delivery around the ESAT. An ESAT is a society that employs disabled people. Because we were talking about unsold, about waste. Like in France, it's 10,000 millions of tons of bread that is waste each year, and it's the disabled people are twice more touched by unemployment than the average. That's why we created the Quignon Handi Gaspi factory. Quignon means the end of the baguette in French.
Very French. Thank you for this introduction. Romain is the R&D engineer at La Pâtisserie Numérique. Same question here. Can you explain us what you do and how you use upcycling?
So at La Pâtisserie Numérique, we created a 3D printer that can print biscuits. And I have some examples with me.
Nice.
So we can print these little shapes to contain pastries. And we can also make more complex pastries that you cannot do by hand. Okay. And basically, we are printing a liquid dough inside a tank of powder that is made from any kind of powder, any kind of food powder. So first we started with wheat flour, but now we can integrate more co-products in it. And as Louise said, we are also trying to integrate bread in our process.
Very interesting. Thank you. Hello, Kalvin. Sorry. So you are the R&D manager at Antofénol, which is a company who produces natural aromatic extracts, so ingredients for the food industry. Can you also tell us what you do and how is upcycling concerned?
So at Antofénol we develop and produce natural flavor. And for develop this kind of aromatic extract, we're using fruits or vegetables, but we work with waste from fruits and vegetables. The idea is to recover the aromatic compounds from this raw material, but not using normal fruits and normal vegetables, but using, for example, ugly fruits or a byproduct from food industry.
Nice. Can you tell us the amount of ingredients that you use coming from upcycling?
Yes. So today we have, I think, 50% of our portfolio is product with waste, and the idea is to have at the end 100% of product from waste.
Big challenge. It will be great. I'm sure you will make it. Louise, maybe we can ask the same question about the percentage of the ingredients that comes from upcycling?
Yes. In our biscuits, we have 20% of bread, and we try to improve this percentage, anyway, to improve it, and increase that by working with other byproducts. For instance, the Choco Coco is made of bread and unsold coconut oil. And actually, what's really nice is that we are beginning to have to be a little known, and the food industries are coming to us saying, "Okay, I have byproducts. I don't know how to save them. Can you please help us?" And that's really nice for us. So we have new products coming out that will be like 60% of unsold product in it. So we are working to increase this amount in each product.
Congratulations, it's already good. What about you, Romain?
So as I told you, we are printing a dough inside a powder, and the powder is integrated into the product at the end. And this is in the powder that we integrate our co-products, and we are able to create the powder with 100% co-products. And now we worked on bread powder, but we are also trying to integrate meringue co-products and also macaron co-products. Yeah.
Maybe you can tell us a little bit about how you actually make waste and how you use or valorize the waste that you make.
Yeah. So, as we are printing little biscuits in a big tank of powder, ultimately, not all the powder is used in our process. So there is some powder that we can reuse for another printing job, etc. But at some point, this powder is not the same as the original. So we develop recipes for our clients so that they can use the powder to make cookies, madeleine, financier, and it's integrated into their products like flour, like wheat flour.
Thank you. Kalvin, do you want to tell us about what you do with your own waste?
Yes. So first, at Antofénol, we have developed a technology of eco-extraction, which is using the microwave to extract the water from the vegetables. So we don't need to add any chemical solvents for the extraction of the aromatic compounds. And so at the end of our process, we don't have any chemical solvent to like waste. So we only have the raw materials, so the fruit or the vegetables. And so after the extraction, this raw material is a little bit dry, and so we can, for example, use it in a methanization or we can use it like organic amount for the farming.
Natural technicity for sustainable planet. That's
Yes.
great. Do you want to tell us what you do with your own waste? I forgot, sorry.
We do have waste a little bit, like bread that has moisture, for instance. And what we do is that we work with someone in our territory that takes the bread and transform it into compost, so it can go back to earth.
Great.
Ouais.
What about the limits to upcycling that you might have lived? Do you know some limits? Everybody wants to know if you meet some complications. No, it's so easy that you have no complication?
It's not that easy. For La Pâtisserie Numérique, we need to have something that can be made into a powder. So we cannot use every co-product, and it also have to respect some composition, because we are making biscuits, so it needs to be made with a powder that is used to make biscuits. So, for example, we couldn't use fruit powder or legumes powder, vegetable powder to make the whole biscuit, but we could use it to make some colorants or aromas, etc. So we are trying to integrate the most co-products possible into our technology, but there are some limits linked to composition and also the nature of the product.
What about the supply chain, maybe? Do you have some... that's what Louise was going to talk about. Great.
Yeah, because about the difficulty of byproducts, for instance, I was talking about the huge food industries that coming to us to save their byproducts. The issue they have on their lines is that when you have a food industry, you have big lines, and they produce a lot of food. And when they have a little issue on the line, they automatically have lots of waste. And for instance, I don't know, you produce 1,000 tons a month. If you have 1% that is thrown away, it's still 10 tons that you throw away per month. So the issue they have is that for us, this amount seems big, but for their lines, it's really small, and they can't save it by their own because their lines are too big. So that's why they're coming to us and saying, okay, I have byproducts, I want to save them, but I can't do it. And that's how we can play. And the other issue is that this is still a lot of a big amount of products, and we are too small to save everything. So that's why there is plenty of time of place for everybody to save byproducts. And this was the first issue for the food industry. And for us, there is also other issues, like sometimes you find byproducts that are amazing. For instance, we are working with the hazelnuts. When you do hazelnut oil, you crush it, you press it, and you have a tourteau. I don't know in English what it is, but a cake. Thank you. And this cake has a really, really nice taste, but it's full of fiber. And this is really hard to put in the biscuits because it absorbs all the water. And during the production, it will induce some issues. So we can't use it. And it needs lots of research and developments to add this byproduct into our product. So this is the two issues I can see with the revalorization.
Thank you very much for sharing those. What about you, Kalvin?
For us, the big issue is about the supply chain. Because today the supply chain for ugly foods or vegetable waste does not exist. So we need to create it. And most part of the time at Antofénol, we work with fresh raw material. So we depend on the season. We also depend on the waste production, because 1 year a farmer could have a lot of ugly fruits, for example, but the year after he don't have any ugly fruits. it's very depending of many parameters, and we can't anticipate this kind of change. So yes, it's complicated to have a constant supply from for waste. Yes.
And this is very important when we are talking about scalability of all your models, I guess. I'd like to hear you talking about KPIs. What KPIs can we use to measure the positive impacts on upcycling? Who wants to go first?
Thank you. So actually, we want to do an ACV to follow the amount of CO2 we can save by saving byproducts. But we don't do it right now because we are too small.
Not yet.
But yeah, not yet. But what we know and what we do is that the ADEME says that to produce one baguette, you lose one bath of water. So in French we say qui sauve un pain sauve un bain, which means who saves a bread save a bath. Because you're using water in the field for the wheat, you're using water in the process to produce the bread, and the whole amount of water is a bath. So what we have saved for now is like 3 swimming pools of water, I mean Olympic swimming pool, by selling these little biscuits. So that's the impact we can measure for now, and I hope we will measure more in the future.
Great, thank you. Romain, la pâtisserie numérique?
For us, we are at the beginning of our activity and our R&D, so we don't have clear measurements for the moment and KPIs, but we are already seeing things that we can save and measure for the future. For example, the powder we are making and processing needs to be humidified and dried for many cycles. So we are already thinking for the industrialization step to reuse the water that is dried and also reuse the heat for this process to create a virtuous cycle.
Very interesting. Yeah, when we are thinking about upcycling, we are thinking of going in a cycle, but not only for raw material, but for everything in the company.
Yeah.
That's very inspiring for everyone.
For Antofénol, it's also difficult to answer this question because we are a small company for the moment. The idea in the future is to realize an ACV of our process using a waste. But today we know that just our process, because it's an eco-extraction process, help us to reduce our carbon footprint if we compare to a conventional way to produce aromatic flavor. And we hope that the use of the waste also help to decrease our carbon footprint.
That's very interesting. I would like to come back here next year and hear you about all those KPIs with numbers so that we can actually see the impact, because we do know that it is huge, but I'm impatient to measure it.
Thank you. And I was thinking while you were speaking that the other thing that we have to be careful of is the transport. Because when you go and save byproducts, you have to go and take it. And for instance, for bread, at the beginning, we wanted to take the bread of boulangerie, but they have really small amounts of bread. So for us to go in each boulangerie and take like 3 baguettes each time, it's a lot of transport for very small amount of bread, and therefore it's not interesting, like the impact will be bad. So we have to work with big stores or with manufacturers to have a big amount of byproducts.
It's a good place to start, but then when we are developing scalability, needs to ask all those questions.
That's exactly what we are doing right now, because as we are little and we are still in the R&D phase, for the moment we are trying to identify with our partners, so bakers, pastry chefs, what waste they have. Because you said that now that you have credibility and visibility, you have some big groups that come to see you, and it's, well, first, congratulations, and it's amazing for you, but it's not the case when we are smaller, and we have to verify and search and try to find little suppliers by little, and the big groups are like invisible for us at the beginning.
Maybe this needs cooperation.
Yeah.
I know that they were talking about cooperation in the previous table, but I'm sure that one of the key is cooperation for that. Kalvin, can you tell us a little bit about if you noticed a change in the market demand for upcycled ingredients? Because you have been doing this for a few years now.
Yes. At the beginning, we work with byproducts, not for the food industry, but for cosmetic industry. And so we start 5 years ago, and in 5 years for cosmetic industry, we see a big change. Today, using byproducts in cosmetic industry, it represents, I think, 80% of the proposition on the market. And now we start to see the same change in food industry. And we hope in the future that it could be the most part of the natural ingredient which we will develop with a byproduct. But I think it's also important to work on the cost and the using cost of this kind of product, because it's very different of the conventional. For example, for flavor, using natural flavor produced with waste is not the same thing like using conventional flavor. So it's why we need to have a change in terms of cost on the market and of using costs.
Can you give us examples of differences of costs?
For example, if we consider a natural flavor, today the price is 5 times superior in comparison with a conventional product. And so it's why we need to try to decrease the price of the natural ingredients.
Definitely. Louise, you wanted to react?
Yeah, I want to react because it works for you, but for instance, for us, working with unsold bread doesn't decrease the price of the product, because we buy the bread first and we have the transport. So finally, the price of the bread is the same than the price of the flour. Thank you. So at the end, we have the same cost than another biscuits.
That's very interesting to hear your two conversations, because as we can see, it just depends on the food category. So there is no global answer. Do you have something to add?
Well, for this part of the cost, the upcycling and the use of co-products, it's not completely constructed at La Pâtisserie Numérique, but I'll take advice from my co-speakers, because it's really important to anticipate this question of cost, transport, supply chain, etc.
Definitely. The less surprised, the easier it will be. Romain, if you can keep the micro to tell us how can new technologies meet commitments to minimal impact on the planet, because I know this is a big question. Sometimes we all think, okay, it's complicated, it shouldn't be very good for the environment, but sometimes it's not true at all.
Well, for us, the answer is very simple, because at the beginning, it wasn't a question of co-products and upcycling. We wanted to use wheat flour and the basic ingredients for making biscuits. And we saw, by developing our technology for our powder process, that we could transform any powder into a printing powder for these biscuits. And of course, it also meets a market demand, but we made the effort to create powders from co-products and upcycled material. So for my short answer would be that for any kind of project, any kind of innovation, any kind of process, etc., we have to ask ourselves, can we make the effort and can we integrate co-products into our technology?
It doesn't have to be the starting point.
No.
It's very interesting.
Completely.
And we will, I will ask you the same question, all three of you, for the end. Do you have any advice for those who think about using Upcycling in their own process? Who wants to go first? What would be your best advice?
Okay. Look, first of all, if you want to create a society using byproducts, just go for it. And if you already have a process and want to improve it by using byproducts, my advice would be like, go step by step. You can't do everything right.
Every step is good.
Yeah.
Is a good
Just
step.
For instance, we are, and you can go not only with food. For instance, we are selling biscuits in buckets that are re-employed. So we go into schools and take the buckets and use it. And this is really easy to put in, and it's just one step, and then you can go further. It would be my advice. Just go for it.
Inspiring. Thank you.
I think my first advice would be to do it.
Same first advice.
Yes.
Interesting.
And I think there are a lot of waste and a lot of category of waste, and it could be very interesting to identify new category of waste which is already not using. And so my advice is to find a very original idea and to find a new and a unique waste.
Be creative.
Well, of course, I have kind of the same advice. So first, do it. That's the starting point, because we didn't think of it at the beginning, and we are doing it right now. And maybe just don't do it to do it. It needs to have sense, and it needs to create value. And I'm not talking about market value. It needs to create an idyllic value. And the last thing, the last advice, it's to talk with people that are already doing it, to have all the ingredients, if I shall say, to make it right.
You were earlier talking about collaboration and inspiration from one another. Well, I hope everything was very clear for you, and I hope that you are very well inspired. What I think we should all go back with is that collaboration is clearly one of the key of the success. Secondly, whatever the starting point is, it's a good starting point, even if it's not in the middle of the way that you think about your company. It's okay, and if it's a way of doing it, perfect. And last but not least, pleasure must be at the center of food products, even in the future and even in a more sustainable future. Thank you, everyone, and thank you very much for our three speakers.